Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. It is November, so usually on YouTube, for BookTube anyway, it is Nonfiction November, but it is also Native American Heritage Month. So I am participating in that as well. So I read a few uh, fiction books that I wanted to discuss and talk about, as well as when I do my Nonfiction November separate video, there's going to be a couple that fit that category there as well. It is also National Child Homelessness Month, and I do have a book that I want to try to get in by the end of the month for that, but I'll wait and do that review when I do read that book. So I just first wanted to start, I've worn this hat before. It's the missing and murdered Indigenous women, awareness. And I wanted to discuss that a little bit because not only is it important to me personally, but it's not just, women do go missing far more than men, especially Indigenous women, but just any missing and murdered Indigenous peoples we should be aware of and discussing and concerned about. And this month, but all year long. And a cousin of mine, because I have mentioned before, I have a lot of Indigenous people in my family. And so my cousin's uncle, who lives in New Mexico, has been missing for a while now. That they don't have any leads. They brought out dogs, and they don't know. And so it's really scary trying to decide if it's a hate crime and for the missing Indigenous people, missing and murdered Indigenous people, or if it's ICE with their racial deportation and ignorance. So it's been a really hard time for those family members, and I know that it's the same for many people across the United States right now. So I just wanted to wear my hat in allyship for that, and to discuss that as I go into talking about the books that I've read. So last month I read two. I finished the one at the end of the month. So I read two Stephen Graham Jones books and found out that I really enjoy him. I hadn't read him before. I'm not usually into horror books or movies, but I really connected with his writing style. So last month I read and already reviewed Only Good Indians and Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I really enjoyed both of those, so I wanted to continue on reading more of his stuff. So I just finished Mongrels, and that is about werewolves. I did enjoy this. I listened to both of these next ones on audiobook, and I really did enjoy the narration and stuff for that. But so it's a coming of age story, and just like all his other stuff, it discusses identity and culture. And there was a really good quote in there because the Indigenous people are the ones who are werewolves, and they obviously have to live in seclusion, live on the run. They have to hide their identity from people who might try to hunt them or try to use them for capitalistic and games. So there was a quote that said, "The world wants us to be monsters," and it's so easy to hate on people, to hunt them down, to use them, to basically and enslave them, or however we do choose to exploit them when you dehumanize them. And so he was talking about how wolves werewolves are not animals, they're human, and how human can, like, you don't even have to have the monster part of you. Humans ourselves are monsters. What we are capable of doing to each other and stuff. So this was an exploration of that, as well as a coming of age story. A good, eerie story. The way that it wrapped up at the end was very powerful, just like I have come to expect from this author. I'm sorry, my cat is kind of distracting me. She always is quiet until I try to do one of these videos. My Heart is a Chainsaw is a trilogy, and so this is the first book in that trilogy, and it is once again kind of a coming of age story, and this one was a lot more humorous than the other ones have been. The lead is a teenage girl who's obsessed with slasher films, and it felt like a nod to the genre, but also to the community of fandom anyway. And I have been in and out of different fandoms in my life, so I just really enjoyed and respected that aspect of trying to just channel your passion so that everybody around you who doesn't have that passion doesn't think that you're a bit too obsessive or crazy with that obsession. And so what I also realize, and this is my own thoughts and stuff, not included at all in the story, but so chainsaws, I just found out recently, and then of course went down the rabbit hole and did extensive research. But a primitive design was actually created to assist in pregnancies. They would literally cut bones or joints or ligaments in the pelvis area to try to make pregnancy easier for the mother. Obviously, it caused a lot more other issues besides, fatalities for the baby and stuff. But I just found that very fascinating. I found out as I was reading this book, so it kind of made that title and that story have a little bit more, a deeper significance for me. And as well as, since I've been reading a lot of stories from, Indigenous Americans, I was thinking more about the Lewis and Clark that we always learn in school, and how I want to say her name right, Sacagawea, she assisted them in going out west. She found the path so that they could travel out west. We learn about how great that is in school. We spend a lot of time with Lewis and Clark and how difficult this journey was. They would have never been able to do it without her. The issue that we never discussed in schools is that once we were able to have the route to travel west, then it continued our colonization. It led to us, the white settlers killing all the buffalo, killing a lot of the indigenous people, or putting them on reservations. So that all stemmed from something that we celebrate in schools as their great expedition out west. And we just never talk about what came of that afterwards. And so I was thinking of that a lot lately as I was reading his books, because a lot of his books deal with colonization and the vanishing of culture and stuff like that. And so a little tidbit that I always found amusing when I read it, the way that they ended up being able to retrace the trail that they all took was by mercury droplets because they were never digested. So a lot of people, when they went on this expedition, what was really popular at the time is like a health aid, digestive, was mercury tablets. You know, they didn't know at the time how poisonous they were. So every person on the journey had a whole bunch of tablets along with their meals and their luggage and stuff. And so it wasn't, you know, their refuse that they found. It wasn't a whole lot of stuff that they wrecked along the way. How they found the trail was these undigested mercury tablets. And I just found that amusing. If you want to learn more about the mercury or this part in particular, I had already suggested it before, but there's a book called The Disappearing Spoon that talks about a lot of the different elements on the periodic table, their importance, how they were discovered, and really cool stories that are left out in history because you know, they didn't fit the narrative, or people didn't make the connections on, once again, mining and establishing all these different elements and understanding what they do and why to use them and how to use them. We didn't ever care about the effect of, you know, whether it was the people discovering them, the areas in which they were discovered, or how they were used for wars and such. So that is a very interesting book if you like just random history or science. It's nonfiction. So on top of it, My Heart is a Chainsaw being about this coming of age girl who really loves slasher films, she starts to experience that in her real life. There is really bad stuff going on, and she's able to use that expertise to try to survive it, but then it makes people distrust her because, you know, how do you know so much? Why do you know so much? Are you involved? Type of thing. But it's just a really great exploration of trauma, generational trauma, escaping trauma, how it was easier for her to delve into these fake horror movies to avoid the realities and harshness and horrors in her real life until the two became intertwined. So I did enjoy that one, but of all of the four that I've read so far, I did like that one the least, but it was still a good book that I'm going to continue and read the rest of the trilogy. So those were the books that I have read for Native American Heritage Month so far, and then I have at least 2 on my list for nonfiction. I was going to read To Spirit Journey, basically some memoir for somebody who we would say is non-binary, but they have a very specific word and an experience that is different than just calling them straight out non-binary. So I wanted to read that memoir, as well as The Serviceberry. I don't know how many other ones I'll get to this month because I wanted to read a few different biographies and stuff that I've been having on my list for Nonfiction November. So the rest of the books are, for the most part, I had a really great reading month so far. My huge disappointment was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And this was a buddy read with a cousin of mine. I had recommended that she read when Christ and his saints slept. I can't remember if it's Christ and his saints slept or when Jesus, I think it was Christ and his saints slept, which is about Henry II and then you eventually get to learn about Eleanor of Aquitaine, who is a fascinating character of mine and stuff. And then you'll go, that's gonna be like like a trilogy, and then two extra books that will just eventually discuss Richard Lionheart. And so it talks about this fight for the throne, and then eventually we'll go into the Crusades and all that stuff. I really enjoy it because I love historical fiction, and I thought we were recommending similar stories, historical fiction, but she recommended me Outlander, which is complete romance, and it was not at all what I was wanting in a book, not at all what I was enjoying in a book. I would have liked if they would have followed the historical aspect of it. I liked the idea of time travel. It was a World War II nurse who got somehow sent to the 1740s in Scotland. I would have loved to explore that out of time aspect. I was hoping for her to understand the war there, her to use her medical abilities in a way that she could, save people that they would have not have been saved, how that would have affected history, and how that would have looked like witchcraft, and then she would have had to deal with all that. Like, that's what I was wanting in a book. And yes, that's briefly touched, and there is towards the end, a witch trial because of that. But the primary thing is she was married to somebody in her time, falls in love with somebody different in this time, meets the great grandparent or whatever of her husband, and he's the villain in the story, and how that's going to affect her if she ever returns home. And like, that part just was not for me. I know that these books are very popular. There's so many of them, and maybe I would get more of the historical, especially the effects of the time travel, and her consequences of what she changes. I did like the idea explained when she was trying to decide if she should go or she should stay. She was talking to a priest, and he was saying how, she accidentally, to save somebody, killed somebody. And she was like, oh no, I affected history. And the priest reminded her, like, you also have saved a bunch of people who otherwise would have died. That affects history as well. Everything we do in our lives has an effect on the future. And that was just a good way to see the world and your place in it, that there is always going to be this ripple effect. But if that's the most interesting thing I took from it, it just was not at all something for me. I did like that they were talking about the Jacobites. I know that I've read several books about the Jacobins, and they are different. So the Jacobins were the ones who battled against slavery down in Haiti with the Haitian Revolution. The Jacobites are the ones who are trying to reestablish Stuart rule in the United Kingdom. So they believe that the king that they had, what they were trying to overthrow at lots of different times, because it went Protestant with Henry VIII and everything, and then there was a king who converted to Catholicism while he was ruling, and it once again started that strife between the Protestants and Catholics as they were trying to put one of their guys back on the throne, so that they could Protestants could rule again. And so, especially with my knowledge about Mary Queen of Scots and her battle against the Protestants, I can understand how they would have had such this betrayal of a Catholic on the throne once they finally got, King James and their Protestants in line. So they would have wanted to keep that Stuart line. So if it would have discussed that aspect more, I would have been much more interested. And I did find it kind of ironic one of the main characters, Jamie, the one that she falls in love with, is a Scottish outlaw who is a Jacobite. Rob Roy would have been a much more interesting character to discuss within this setting, because he was the most famous Scottish outlaw Jacobite, or at least in the stories that I read, he was a Jacobite. And so I felt like that was almost, maybe she didn't include it because that would have been what was expected, but she still wanted to discuss that situation. I don't know. But overall, I finished it because I wanted to be able to discuss it with my cousin, but I did not overly enjoy it. It was an okay book. I think I only rated it like 2.25 stars. I didn't even read it like a full 2.5 stars. The next books, though, I really enjoyed. Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. So this book was a choice for one of the book clubs that I'm in, and I absolutely loved this book. I didn't really know what to expect going into it, and it was so beautifully, tragically written. I loved the prose. I loved the haunting beauty of the language described. And so this story is about a boy who is in boarding school. He has a twin sister and a best friend. And the best friend and him are both in love with each other, but they don't want to act on it. They don't know how to act on it. He realizes he's asexual, so he doesn't know if that's going to be something that the boy would even want from him. So they kind of walk around each other, but don't know how to like not gravitate towards each other. And this story, it's a horror story, monsters and stuff, because he writes and his the boy draws, and they both are obsessed with like fairy tales, but like the monsters and stuff, and those monsters start coming to life, the ones that the boy are drawing, and they're killing people, and they have to try to stop it, and they don't know why they're coming. They don't know how to stop it, and eventually they start attacking the school, and so the monsters, it is spooky in a way if you're not expecting some different things, like he'll eat things and it'll turn into like rotten stuff, or he'll go to reach for something, and teeth will come out and bite him. So there are some aspects that are, would be considered horror, but the monsters are more a fill-in for how secrets and guilt and grief and shame and all that can destroy you and your loved ones. And I felt like that was handled so beautifully here. It's about found families. It has really interesting family dynamics between the brother and the sister, and it's so emotional, and the twist towards the end just completely blew my mind, and it was just so hauntingly and devastatingly beautiful, that I feel like this story is going to stay with me for a long time. And I'm really glad that our book club chose to read it. I don't always want to read the books that are chosen. I haven't had the best of luck with some of them, but this is the first one that I have really absolutely loved. The next one that I read was also for it's going to be a trilogy, or actually it might even be more books than that. But we in our book club pick a book a month, and then we also do a series, and so we're starting a new series. And the first one in that was The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. Now this is what I wanted Outlander to be. This would have been something that, if my cousin would have had me read this, I would have absolutely loved her for it. This is by Shauna Lawless, and it's fantasy grounded in reality. So it's historical. So it's a historical fantasy, I guess. So it has the Vikings against the Irish. You have pagans versus Christians. You have gender dynamics, class dynamics, magic versus non-magic entities vying for control on the throne and stuff like that. So it leads for really great character interactions amongst all sides. One magic healer is set to basically infiltrate the humans and find a way to destroy them, and starts to understand their cause, and starts to use her power to actually save some of them, even though it's forbidden. And then you have another female character. These two are like kind of the main characters, and so she's the healer. And then you have one who's basically reminds me of Cersei on Game of Thrones, where she's like navigating either her child to have power, or if she can't do that, then she's just gonna power grab herself. And I'm sorry, both of those characters are so interesting. They're aspects of where they fit within the human versus magical cycle, but also their motivations are different, and they're changing as the story progresses. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to unfold. I've really enjoyed the world building here and the character development. So I am looking forward to more of these. The next book is was a really fun quick read. This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher. And it's a cozy fantasy, and it has become my favorite cozy fantasy. I just enjoyed this book so much. It was so light and just fun, on top of like all the, I'm always reading a lot of the darker stuff. So reading something that, it did have grief in it, and it did have, how friendships fall apart when one of their core group dies. And the premise is the fact that 10 years ago, this group of 4 heroes, essentially think of a D&D game. So some of them have magic powers, some of them do, and you're not for sure what they are. So there's these 4 friends, a brother and a sister, and then 2 others, who save the kingdom. But the brother dies in the process. And so saving the kingdom ruined their lives, ruined their friendship, and they haven't talked at all in 10 years. All of them have been spiraling. None of them are really doing too great. But now the kingdom is under a threat again, and they're the only ones who people believe can save the kingdom again. And they have to figure out if it's worth it, if they can deal with working with each other. There's another character who's introduced who was kind of not like more like a rival than like their villain that they were fighting against. But so she's introduced, so now there's 4 of them again. And so there is a hetero couple, and then a sapphic couple, and just those interactions, but also the interpersonal interactions have been really thoughtfully put together, really fun. And like I said, the way that they have to deal with grief and stuff does, bring this sort of realism to it. Because otherwise it's just this like lighthearted romp, where it feels like you get to join this really fun D&D group of people trying to save their kingdom and stuff. And I really did enjoy that, and there is going to be another book out early next year that I definitely plan to pick up. The next one, or two of them I read. I wanted to try to get them in for Victober, but I wasn't able to. But I really did enjoy both of them. The first one is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I had that on my list for a long time. I don't know why I didn't read it before. It is by far my favorite Bronte book. I really enjoyed this one. It felt like it can be compared with Thomas Hardy books. So it felt more like it would compare with, or you could compare or contrast with Tess of the Dubervilles, as well as a non Thomas Hardy book, one that I'm always talking about, A Woman at Point Zero. And so she is basically a disgraced woman, and she could go one of two ways. She could go the way of Tess, which I don't want to spoil that because that is definitely a great book. But she also could go the way of the Woman at Point Zero, who basically, after falling into prostitution, decides that she's not going to let men hurt her anymore, and is and basically going to be executed for murder. So she could have gone one of those ways, very similar ways, but she instead chose to live as a widow, so that in secret, to try to raise her son. And then the townspeople just won't give up on her. They like to gossip about her. They want to learn about her. And then she ends up falling in love with one of the guys. And so it's told in dual narratives, because you get the guy who is falling for this girl, but just not quite feeling like he's getting close enough. There's something he's missing because she is hiding something. And then it switches to her point of view via her diary, where you get to see how she ended up there and what really happened. And I really did enjoy that artistic choice. It really gave depth to her character, and I really did like her point of view. And she was such a great character. I wish I'm so horrible at names unless I write them down, and I forgot to write it down. But she was really strong, really just, I guess, resourceful, resilient, and I found her much more interesting, personally, than Jane Eyre, or even Catherine in her sister's book. So it is part mystery because you don't know what it is that she's hiding unless you read the synopsis, which I would actually suggest that you don't. I would like you just to read it as the mystery that it is, because it does have this gothic mystery element to it that it was trying to go for. And I feel like knowing the whole story and what she's doing could spoil that for you. The next book that I read was Therese Raquin by Emile Zola. I've been wanting to read a Zola book for quite a while. And I'm glad that I started with this one. I did the audiobook, and it was read by Kate Winslet, who did a fantastic job. And this one, I was expecting it to be very similar to the ones that I just read and just discussed. So, you have this fallen woman. I was thinking, it deals with an affair. And so, yes, it could be Madame Bovary. It could be Anna Karenina. It could even have elements of Tess of the Dubervilles. It did not. It felt way more like Crime and Punishment, or even like a pinch of Edgar Allan Poe, when they started getting into paranoia of whether or not they'd get caught. And I kind of want to talk about it, so I'm going to be, spoil it slightly here, just because it happened so soon, that's not like the main part of the story. The main part of the story is what happens afterwards. So she and her husband's friend have an affair, and then they collude together to kill the husband so that they can be together, which, like I said, was not at all where I thought this was going to go. But you have this really well written guilt and paranoia because they did it for love so that they could be together, but now neither of them trust each other because they don't want to get caught for this murder, and so now they're not trusting the other person to keep it a secret, to keep them safe, and they have to deal with that on top of hiding this huge secret and having the guilt of the secret kind of warp them. So you have all this like murder and mayhem that I was not expecting, grounded in such well-written writing style. I'm definitely going to read more of his work. I just, like I said, I was expecting it to be more along the lines of a lot of the other fallen women stories for the Victorian era, but man, it was so much more than that. And like I said, the Kate Winslet edition with her narrating was fabulous. And I know that this is already long, but this book is gonna take me a bit of time to talk about. I do have a couple more. I'll do the shorter one first. So this book is a children's book, The Proudest Blue. So I'm gonna really try on this name, but Ibtihaj Muhammad. Ibtihaj Muhammad is a black Muslim woman who is a American, and she has won. She's an Olympian medalist, the bronze medal, I believe, for fencing. She has a book that I want to read, a memoir called Proud. I haven't been able to get that. It's not available at my library yet, but my favorite children's bookstore, the local bookstore that I go to, that's children's and young adult books. Very, very diverse books, and this is where I get a lot of my read around the world books, just because because I had mentioned it to her. She now has on her website the books that she carries and what country and stuff they're from, which is really helpful for me as I'm trying to read around the world. But anyway, this one is about this. So she writes this book, and the two characters are representative of her own sisters. So it's two sisters, and the youngest sister is she idolizes her older sister, and her older sister just got her first hijab for school, and she chose this really pretty blue, and it's about the pride in getting her first hijab. The little sister is so proud of her; she can't wait to get her own. But it's also about some of the children in school are curious, but then some of them bully her, and the sister keeps her head held high and wears it with pride, and inspires the little sister. So it's such a cute little book. There are 3 in this trilogy, so there will be one about for red, and it's about kindness, and then one for white, and that's what she wore. I wish there was a picture in here of the author, but it's what she wore because she wears a hijab. But she wore a white one when she was in her medaling in the Olympics, because they wear the white the uniform for fencing. So the last one in the series that's just published. So I don't know how many more there'll be, but that one is about white, and I think that is the boldest white, and it's when they start fencing and stuff. So these are really cute. And if you have any kids or just want to kind of learn about a different culture and stuff, they're always a quick and fun way to pick that up. So my next book was my favorite book of the month, and one of my favorites of the year. I think this year, this is my fourth Frederick Bachman book this year. So this is My Friends. I had recently read his trilogy, the Beartown trilogy. I absolutely loved it. All of those I gave 5 stars. I give this a 5-star as well. I think his writing style has improved since then, because that one, since it was talking about a whole community and the inner workings of it and stuff, it was written in a more unique way, because it kind of was like zoomed out. And this one is a lot more first person narrative interaction, a lot of dialogue and stuff that was missing in the trilogy. So I did like the writing style of this one. It flowed. It went a lot quicker. It was a really quick read. But I am so sorry for my cats. So this book, though, is about, at its heart, art, and how art moves people. And I know that I just did a video where I do a couple of quotes from here, because it was my favorite quotes video, and there was one about how art basically leaves a piece of us in the people who are able to witness it. And I believe that is very apparent in this book. This young girl, it kind of goes two narratives once again. This young girl is basically breaks into a auction with a bunch of rich people who want to buy this painting by a relative unknown painter who has addiction and different illnesses and is likely not going to live very long. So they think if they buy it before he dies, it's going to be so much more money after he dies. And they kind of wish he dies soon. And she sees this painting, and it's been something that's been really powerful for her because she's been in and out of, foster systems. She lost people, her parents, and all the people that she loves. She just lost her best friend. And art is what she connects with, what heals her, what feels universal to her. And she wants to glimpse this painting before it's sold and then kept away, hidden in a rich person's room. And then she is left in a really fun twist of fate. When the artist dies, she is left the painting, and she doesn't know what to do with it because she's, poor and homeless on the streets, and now she has like $1 million painting around. All she wants to do is learn about the group of friends that were pictured in that painting. And so the painter's friend, who's the one who delivers the painting to her, tells her, so then you get the past and his story, the painter's story, through the lens of his surviving best friend. And it's so beautiful and like heartwarming, and just an ode to friendship, to found family, to finding your people. Like, that's what it was. Like, they didn't always call it found family. It was finding your people, and how generations might have essentially stood between them of when, these kids grew up, and then he became an artist. And then this girl, I think it was 20 or 25 years later, this girl sees the painting and then is gifted it. And so despite the fact that this amount of time separates their lived experiences, they still find each other in a way that makes them know that they're each other's people. And she gets immersed in this world and learns more about what happened, and kind of gets to meet some of the other people that were featured in the painting, or in the story that was told about the painting. And so she ends up getting to find her people, and this guy who lost his best friend, and experience a lot of grief and stuff in his life, gets to have not only that closure, but gets to relive his favorite moments instead of always thinking about his worst moments. And I just thought it was such a beautiful story. I myself just really love art, so just the way that it's art is beauty, which is humanity, and how this felt like a love letter to that, to art, to friendship, to community, to your people. And there was a book that I had read a while ago, and that book, it was okay. I do recommend it. I think about it from time to time, but it's definitely not at all on this level. But it also talked about the influence of art on different people's lives, and it had like different people that you follow, and then eventually their stories intertwine, and it's all through like the same kind of way, through on art and artists. And that is called The Shadow. Shadow is a Color as Light Is by Michael Langen. And what's interesting about that is, in that book is when I first heard about Emile Zola in his work, because he's featured as a friend of the artist that everybody is obsessed with. And so you kind of get a little bit of Zola's story. And I found it fascinating, and I had been wanting to read his stuff, and I finally did when I read the Therese Rakin, I guess, I don't even know how to say that, book. So it kind of came full circle. I do highly recommend this book. I'll see when I do my year and wrap up how many books I feel like are still 5-star books, and that I don't know if I'll do a ranking. I know that I had several of them this year, but this is definitely one of them. And then speaking of art, I just wanted to do this quick thing because I also just recently had my Japanese club meeting, and we talked about wood art. And what is fascinating about the Japanese wood art, and it is Shinhanga, and essentially what you do is an artist draws, now what's popular is the landscapes and stuff. So they used to travel a lot, and they would draw what they see. And then there would be somebody who would then cut out different pieces out of wood that represented, like if they were drawing trees, they would, cut out a tree, the road, fences, and different stuff that you cut it out of wood. And then you have a separate person who then dips those wood cutouts into paint so that they can recreate the original painting, so that they can essentially mass produce it before you could, before you had printers and all this stuff where you could mass produce this art. And so it was really fascinating to hear about the history of it, because I have this one book, and this is the Meiji period. So this is 1868 to 1912. The stuff I really like is actually in the 20s and after, because that's when you get into the landscapes. So these ones are more, they're like battle scene reenactments, or a lot of them include people, but they would, you paint them, and then you do the wood cutouts. So some of these paintings, this one would be probably a whole lot more. But the normal paintings, 20 or 30, 40 wood pieces. And then some of them could be several hundred, depending on how you want to get involved and detailed into it. So I love art and history, and then obviously with my Japanese club and learning Japanese and stuff, I do try to learn about the different time periods and the different things within their culture. But I did write down a few things that I wanted to suggest if you want to look into this. Some of my favorite of the wood art stuff is if you look up Hasui, Hasui, he has some fantastic art for this kind of art style. His is one thing he was really great at was snow, so like outdoor scenery and stuff. But definitely check him out. And then my favorite has been the Hishi no Miya. They're night scenes. And so if you put in, so NISHINOMIYA, night scenes. There's 21 prints there by several different artists. They don't have the names of several of the artists. But those are so beautiful, just in their simplicity, but knowing how much work actually goes into making those prints, you hopefully will get a bigger understanding of this kind of art form, and how they were really popular after each of the wars. So it's really hard to get stuff from before the 20s because, after World War I, everybody was, if you travel to Japan and stuff, all the, people wanted to buy those prints. They were very popular. Same thing with right after World War II. And so all these prints were bought up, and they ended up printing a lot for foreign audiences just because they knew of their popularity and stuff. So it's still this very significant thing, but now understanding all that goes into it, like you might have seen some of them before, but you might not have understood how much time and effort and it goes into that art, and how it's this communal thing. It's not just a single artist painting, and I find that absolutely fascinating. And since we were talking about art and how that lives on through people and how it's part of your lived experience, experiencing it with this person who created this art that you love, whether it's books or whether it's actual art. I just love how it connects us and how it can inspire us. And I hope that you do take a time to just look up some of it, and maybe even if it's not for you, maybe you're not even an art person, but just to recognize how hard it was to do something that seems and looks so simplistic. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and I know that this is a very long video. I read a whole bunch of books this month, and I will do a separate video for the Native American Heritage Month, where I'm going to do book recommendations, as well as show you some of the books that are still on my TBR. Obviously, I'm not going to get to them this month, or probably even this year, but they're books that I've been desperately wanting to read. And then I also will do a separate nonfiction November video with all the books that I've read for nonfiction. Anyway, happy reading, happy month, and happy National Native American Heritage Month. Thank you, and have a great day.